Hey everybody, welcome back. Today I'm going to show you exactly how to get the Warlock unique boots, Footfalls of the Waning World in Diablo 4. These are quickly becoming one of the most important endgame Warlock items, and the only way to target farm them is by defeating Astaroth at the end of an Escalating Nightmare. So in this video I will show you how to craft an Escalation Sigil, how the escalation dungeons work, the Astaroth fight itself, and hopefully the loot drop at the end. Let's get into it. Now, before we can get the boots, we need access to Escalating Nightmares. Now, Escalating Nightmares are basically three nightmare dungeons chained together into one long run. Every dungeon gets harder because affixes stack as you progress through the chain. So maybe the first dungeon has poison explosions and lightning storms. Then the second dungeon keeps those affixes and adds more. By the third dungeon, things can get pretty heavy, and once you clear all three dungeons on term and difficulty, the game opens up a portal to Astaroth's lair, where you fight an upgraded version of Astaroth himself. That boss is the reason we're here, because that's where you can farm Footfalls of the Waning World. Now, to start an escalating nightmare, you need something called an escalation sigil. Now, normally these can drop from Horadric strong rooms inside nightmare dungeons. They can drop from pretty much anywhere, but honestly, the easier method right now is crafting one yourself with the Horadric cube. So let me show you that. We're gonna head over to the cube, and what you want to do is combine 5 nightmare dungeon sigils together. So you're gonna see right there, I'm tossing my 5 sigils into the cube. I hit transmute, and there it is, our escalation sigil. Now we're ready to go. Once you activate the escalation sigil, the first dungeon gets marked on your map, and this is important. Even though you only see the first dungeon listed, this is actually a full 3 dungeon chain. Inside the dungeon, it feels similar to a normal nightmare dungeon at first, but after you kill the boss at the end, instead of just leaving, you get a special portal or pillar that sends you directly into the next dungeon. The game also previews the next set of affixes before you continue, and this is where things get escalating. More enemy modifiers, more elite pressure, more stacked affixes, and if you get bad combinations, the third dungeon can be a pain in the butt. Alright, so now you're gonna see we're pushing through the escalation. You can already feel the difficulty ramping up, the enemy density gets higher, the elites start stacking up mechanics. And one thing that I actually like about this system is that it feels faster than normal Nightmare dungeon farming because you stay in the action the whole time. You're not constantly resetting dungeons or teleporting around, you just keep chaining content together. And honestly, if you're farming endgame Warlock gear, this is one of the better loops in the game right now. Now, one tip before you do these yourself, make sure you've completed your strongholds. There's currently an issue that some players, including myself, have run into where escalation runs can bug out if the next dungeon in the chain is tied to an unclear stronghold. So basically what happens is when you're supposed to get the portal, instead you just get kicked out of the run. So definitely clear those beforehand if you want to avoid losing your sigil, or you can just chance it and hope that you don't get a random nightmare dungeon that is in a stronghold. Alright, so the third dungeon is complete, and now we get transported into Astaroth's lair. This is the final boss of the escalation, and this fight is no joke. Astaroth has multiple phases, huge area attacks, tons of fire damage, and eventually separates from his mount during the fight. So if your build struggles with survivability or movement, this boss can be punishing. For Warlocks especially, mobility matters a ton here, and that is actually one of the reasons why Footfalls of the Waning World is so valuable in the first place. The Nether Step evade effects gives insane repositioning potential during boss mechanics. So ironically, you're farming the item that makes farming this boss easier later. Now, during this fight, the biggest thing is stay calm during the fire mechanics and don't get trapped during the transition phases. Because once the arena starts filling up, things can spiral really quickly. And there it is. Astaroth down. Now this is the moment we've been waiting for. Let's check the loot. And boom, Footfalls of the Waning World. These boots are already being used in a ton of high-end Warlock setups because the evade transformation synergizes insanely well with shadow form builds and high mobility endgame gameplay. So if you're planning on pushing harder content, speed farming, or optimizing your Warlock build, this is definitely one of the uniques that you want to chase. So that's the full process for getting the Footfalls of the Waning World in Diablo 4. Quick recap: get or craft an Escalation Sigil, run the 3 Escalating Nightmare dungeons, defeat Astaroth at the end, farm until the boots finally drop. And that is it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoy my content and you want to support the channel, there are a few ways that you can help out. First, drop a like on the video and share it with your friends, family, or anyone you think would enjoy it. It really helps the channel grow. Second, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so that you never miss a future video. And third, if you would like to support me directly, you can do so at allbashgaming.com. In there, you can buy me a coffee, and now you can also rep the channel with your own merch. You can grab your Loot Goblin t-shirt or the classic "It's not a glitch, it's a tech" t-shirt over on my shop. All the links you need are in the description. Thank you again for watching. I appreciate every single one of you. See you in the next one.